Tonight, we got to see the legendary film Oldboy in theaters. Not the Spike Lee one, but the one that people like. Connor, what's the plot of Oldboy?
Oldboy follows a drunk who gets trapped for 20 years after being abducted in a room by himself, with his only accompaniment really being the TV. And he starts kind of going crazy. He starts working out, trying to basically get revenge. And then it's a noir picture where he tries to figure out who's behind it, why they did it. And at the end of the day, it's kind of a study on if vengeance matters and if seeing through vengeance is actually going to fulfill your trauma, or if it's just going to fuck shit up worse. Beyond that, I don't really want to give any spoilers, so I think this will be well, I don't think it'll be a spoiler-free review, but we'll cut it at some point and go into spoilers. Because to talk about this movie, you kind of got to spoil it.
Yeah, a little bit.
But at the same time, I want people who haven't seen it to go in with fresh eyes. So I guess we'll start with recommendations for once. Aiden,
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts and do you recommend?
Okay. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss.
I also recommend it.
I highly recommend going in blind. I know the movie's very old at this point, but...
And it's hard to track down. It's barely on any American Digital.
Yep.
But if you have a 4K player like me, you can buy the $40 Arrow Video Region Free 4K for $40. I'm sure you can find it, pirate it.
Yeah.
Something.
Figure out a way to watch it. It's fantastic. Anyway. As for thoughts and things, yeah, it's fucking deranged, really, is the best way to put it. Not just plot-wise, a lot of people focus on how deranged the plot is, but it's really just a unhinged movie, unhinged filmography, unhinged cinematography, unhinged soundtrack. It's all over the place on pretty much everything. In the best way possible. It's weird, it's unsettling, it's disgusting. You get to watch a man eat a live octopus, which apparently took 4 takes. He just had to keep eating it until they got that real live octopus down his throat correctly. The score I noticed more than ever on this rewatch. It's very, very strange. It's kind of classical sounding, but in a just deeply awkward way, but it fits. And you have this big noir mystery unfolding as our protagonist kind of unravels everything. He's kind of spoon-fed it throughout, which isn't atypical of noir, because he's a stupid dumbass.
Well, it's noir. It's sort of a horror movie.
He's way in over his head.
Comedy.
Yeah, the movie's surprisingly funny a lot of the times. A lot of the side characters are pretty funny in a way, especially. But even the major plot elements could be seen as like darkly comedic. It's very weird and unsettling. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. I love all the little... There's just so many things that have always stuck with me. Whether it's the weird classical music or that whip zoom that happens when he gets to the penthouse with the reflection, and it's just this gigantic whip zoom that looks completely ridiculous but completely works. And It's disgusting and violent and weird, and it has one of the best action scenes I've ever seen, tucked in the middle alongside all this other insane shit going on. It's a real roller coaster, and I remember the first time I saw it being completely blown away by how much of a roller coaster it is. I think it's incredible. Basically perfect. I guess you haven't seen this movie in way longer than I have. You've been away from it. So I guess I'll hand it over to you, and you can talk some spoilers and things.
Yeah, when I saw this movie, I was like 11. And I kind of watched it on and off. I just remember at 11 years old, it was a little disturbing for me. Perhaps I wasn't able to read into it as much or see the.
I was the cool, edgy 13-year-old.
Yeah, Aiden was the cool, edgy 13-year-old. I was like 11, so it's a little much for me at that age. Now I can see a lot of the. Like it's a mixture of a lot of genres, which I respect. It's got comedy, it's got romance, it's got noir, it's got martial arts, it's got horror, it's got a psychological thriller. To pin it down is very difficult. At its base, it's noir.
Yeah.
And it's very purposeful. Like every decision. I guess from here on out, we're gonna really start spoiling it. So, but basically, the twist at the end is that the girl he fell in love with, and has been banging, is his daughter. And there's very graphic sex scenes which are used.
Yes,
at the time, you're like, oh damn, you know. I mean, I already knew what the twist was, but an uneducated viewer might just be like, oh damn, he's getting some kinky sex, cool. But kind of just, it turns out it's like an incest thing. It almost calls to mind some like 70s pornos where you had kind of that disturbing aspect to it.
Yeah.
Intentionally.
Well, the villain's also a big incest boy.
Well, the villain also is an incest boy, so his revenge plot is to essentially make him fuck his daughter. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's weird, it's somewhat disturbing.
It's
but it's really well shot, and there's a lot of impressive things.
Yeah.
I think like the most famous thing for like dumb people in this movie is the fight scene in the hallway. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, because it's a very impressive sequence.
Yeah,
it's like a 10-minute fight scene, and it's very intentional. Look, actually dangerous to film.
Yeah.
I don't know what the props were made of. Regardless of that, it still seemed pretty dangerous and long. But it's fun. It's cool. There's fun parts. You really start to like all the characters. And I also think it's interesting. At multiple points, he kind of points out the age difference between him and his lover. You think I guess if you're thinking of it in a way, like I already knew what the twist was because I saw it when I was 11. But I suppose I would wonder if that was like a comment. There's a lot of commenting on Hollywood cinema, I feel like, of the genres. Like you look at like, even today, less so today, but in the past for sure, it'd be like 20-year-old woman is dating 55-year-old Tom Cruise or something.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of things where you question like
more
the
acceptable
commentary.
in most Asian cultures too.
No, it is
decently common over there,
and it's acceptable. It was definitely more acceptable in the past. Now it's not so much. But there's a lot of commentary in this movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a revenge film too, but it's kind of a two-pronged revenge film because you're rooting for the main character who wants revenge, but you also kind of understand the villain wants revenge. The villain definitely is probably less justified, being that he's just mad that there was a rumor spread by our protagonist that he got his sister pregnant. Like
and they were
he's
fucking.
like it. They
It's
were
not
fucking.
like it was something that was just made up.
Yeah,
He
he's
saw
fucking his
Meg.
sister.
But yeah, I always love that. It's just such an insignificant thing that that AI forgets it entirely.
There's a lot of mirrors in this film too.
Yeah,
And kind of a significance. Like when we see the villain fucking his sister for the first time, or not fucking her per se, but like, you know, when he's caught like making out with his sister and sucking her titties.
Yep.
When the protagonist,
First time he
we're
tries
just calling them by their thing because like I can't pronounce Korean names, so I'm not even gonna try.
First time he tries to kill himself in the hotel room he's locked in, he uses a shard of a mirror.
Yeah,
And
he
at
looks
the
in
end,
a
when
lot
the
of
villain's
mirrors.
explaining everything.
He has a
he's through a mirror.
self-portrait. Yep. Well, that's the most blatant reference that I was going to call it back to is they ended up originally facing the villain and the pseudo hero lock eyes through a mirror for the first time.
Yep.
And there's a lot of reference to that.
And then the first time he has sex with the girl, it's in a hotel room that looks just like the one he was locked in because he's still in the prison.
Well, he's also looking in.
He's still there.
He's also combing her hair in a mirror. A lot of mirrors. Although the one thing I will say about mirrors is the villain. I think they're having trouble figuring out how to shoot it in a good way. And the CG is a little crusty in this, given that it's a 2003 Korean movie, and by a little I mean significantly crusty.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty clear green screen shot, which was probably just the only practical way you could shoot on such a big mirror. You could kind of see the green. Not that that's a huge criticism, because especially when a movie has a story that's as engaging as Oldboy, I don't really give a shit if there's minor effect issues.
It's not an effect anyway. And that whip zoom is incredible, where it's just like...
No, a lot of it's more just flexing on cinematography and choreography and
I love our villain.
performances. There's plenty of things that they're flexing on.
I love our villain, Asian incest Patrick Bateman.
The minor effect shots, while noticeable in this film, it's noticeable most of the time it happens. It's not, it doesn't take you out of the film, especially since it's so engrossing. It's not like something like Anaconda
Yeah.
or something like that where the story's shit, so then the shit effects jump out at you. And also, this movie isn't an effects movie. There's just some things that practically weren't possible or weren't feasible without effects.
That's a really good looking movie.
It is. It's a really good looking movie.
It's a very weirdly shot movie too, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's
a lot
shot. I would wonder what type of film it was shot on, because it definitely has. I mean, it's distinctly film, which I think is very interesting, especially given the time period. I mean, a lot of like Asian countries were still doing different film than America. I don't know a lot about camera technology, but it's very clearly film more than something like an American film circa 2003.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's to the movie's benefit, or I don't think that's to discredit the film, because given that it's kind of a noir, I think they capture the American noir energy very well, which I think was definitely an influence.
Yeah, definitely. It feels a lot like a Chinatown or something, where it's Just this gritty, miserable, lots of tight, close-up shit, and then occasional just wide shots of the just desolation of.
I mean, if I had to boil something like this or Chinatown, because I actually think those films are pretty comparable.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
For sure. But I'm just saying, like, the main thing that noirs need to be good, you need a good story or a good mystery, and you need good acting.
Yeah.
You know, they're not effects pictures per se. And this film kept me intrigued, even as the story started to unravel. And for the last, like, 20-ish, 25 minutes of this movie, the story is unraveled. And a lot of noirs kind of end right after the mystery is solved. That's kind of your cue to wrap up a small prologue or a small ending. But this movie takes a good amount of time to kind of show the range of emotions that our lead goes through. Yeah. And I thought that was a pretty good thing. Yeah, I was thinking throughout it that I understand why 11-year-old Connor was not a fan, but I also definitely think this has to be in like my top 10 or 15 movies.
I love when
I genuinely, I'll give stuff 5 stars all the time, but it's rare that I think like, oh damn, this is one of my favorite movies.
I love when this movie plays with the flashbacks too. Both the flashback sequences I think are really good, where the protagonist is remembering how he got the ire of the villain, and he's running through the halls with his teenage self, and then a little bit after, the villain has his flashback to his thing, and then cocks the invisible gun, and then just bam, he's on the ground dead. It's good, man. It's a real good movie, and this ain't the only one. I mean, this movie has a soft prequel and a soft sequel, kind of. They're not technically related, but Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Lady Vengeance are like a soft trilogy around the theme of vengeance.
Oh, by the same guy?
Yeah.
Sure. I like those theme trilogies. They're more common in foreign countries. We don't have many theme trilogies here, but like Dario Argento has kind of the same thing with his Suspiria trilogy.
Sure.
Suspiria just being the most famous one.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Terry Gilliam's movies kind of come in duologies and trilogies too.
Right.
Thematic.
I guess eras too. You can just break it down to eras of a career.
Yeah. But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, the other two are really good.
This movie's a lot more fun to analyze than a lot of the things we talk about on Drunkview. We don't usually try to go into the analysis of
because we watch cape shit and fucking movies for toddlers.
I bet you Strays, you know?
Yeah, Strays is gonna be
Our Strays is gonna be insightful. We'll be like when
whose idea was it to make Hotel for Dogs for adults?
The same. It's from the minds of Sausage Party, I believe. Actually, I don't think so. I think it's just kind of a rip-off of Sausage Party.
Do you remember that movie?
Dog movie version of Sausage Party.
The fucking dog movie that came out like 2 years ago where the dog gets jacked up.
I don't feel like cut his dick off or something.
No. It's like a. It was like a. I think it was
dog show.
It was called Show Dogs, and the dog is an undercover agent who has to go to a dog show, and they fucking jerk him off, and the other dogs are like, just lay back and think of Britain, and like just close your eyes and bear it, you know, and they're like, just get molested, you little fuck.
Well, that was longer than 2 years ago because that came out like right after. That came out around Me Too, and then like. Because I think it got shelved. Like, Show Dogs was supposed to come out in like 2014 or something. It got shelved to like 2018, and then
Yeah, something like
still
that.
had to fucking get jacked off to become a good Show Dog or something. And then they had to resend a cut to theaters.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So Aiden, would you recommend Oldboy? Oh wait, we already did this kind of.
We did, but just to reaffirm,
reiterate.
one of my favorite movies of all time, masterpiece, fantastic. Go watch it. Connor, would you recommend Oldboy?
I agree with Aiden. Masterpiece. It's one of those movies I've really wanted to revisit, but it's very hard to kind of get your hands on it these days. So I waited for the 20th anniversary re-release, which should be in theaters for like a week, probably by the time. Well, if you watch this like the day it's uploaded, you might be able to go
Slip into theaters.
You might be able to slip into it, but our screening was pretty full, and we sat by a couple of old people.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were like film connoisseurs or if they were just like, what the fuck, but
they seemed kind of confused walking out, because right as the credits started rolling, they stood up and the old lady said, "I don't get it."
Yeah, because the old guy
seemed like he was enjoying himself.
Well, the old guy was like getting in like the teeth scene, well, the multiple teeth torture scenes.
Yeah.
He was viscerally reacting. Just kind of fun. I mean, I'm sure everybody in the theater was viscerally reacting.
Teeth stuff is the one thing I can't handle. I can't do that.
I wasn't loving when they were doing the needle stuff either, and I don't even really mind needles in real life.
Teeth fuck me up.
I'm trying to remember who it was who said it, but in cinema, people say like you can watch a decapitation in cinema, but that's not part of your everyday life. But if someone does a really good paper cut, that'll fuck you up. And that's so true, actually. Because, like, I can't remember what movie it is, but someone gets, like, a paper cut between their fingers.
Oh, God. I know what you're talking about.
I think it's a comedy movie.
I think it's Office Space.
No,
it's not.
It's true. Like, someone stubs their toe in the movie, you're gonna have a more visceral reaction than, like...
You know what it
You really gotta cheat it. You really gotta cheat it. Because people will have a visceral reaction to the little girl getting decapitated in Hereditary. Which, by the way, speaking of Hereditary, overrated ass movie. It's good. But the only thing I heard people talk about is the little girl getting decapitated. And the only thing I remember from that movie is the little girl getting decapitated.
That's the big twist.
That's the sign of it fucking happens 20 minutes in.
Yeah, but it's a big twist because children don't die in movies.
Not anymore.
And so children dying in a movie automatically makes it.
Yeah, they dropped their they blew their load 10 minutes in. Yeah. I hope Midsommar is better. I just don't know if I'm gonna be an Ari Aster guy.
I didn't really like Midsommar. Like, I got it.
I haven't seen it yet, but I do.
There's one scene in Midsommar I really like.
It's in the Blu-ray pile. One day.
I watched it with Isaiah at his house after we played Beat Saber, and then Isaiah was like, "Hey, you ever see this porno?" And I was like, "Nope."
Yeah, well,
sorry, Isaiah.
Isaiah tried to get me to see Hereditary with him because we were tripping balls on acid, and we watched Upgrade, and then we went to Ocean's 8. And then Isaiah's like, let's sneak into Hereditary. And I'm like, Upgrade's a great movie. Ocean's 8 was a terrible movie. But I've been up for like 48 hours straight tripping balls. And we're not going to see this third movie on one ticket. Because I was too fucking... It wasn't even like... It was the I can't sleep period of acid, you know?
Yeah.
You're done with the trip.
I had 3 movies on one ticket once and it was horrible.
What was that, Aquaman and
It was Aquaman, Bumblebee, and Mortal Engines.
That's 3 long ass movies on one ticket. I mean, Bumblebee's not too long.
I don't remember
Aquaman.
anything about Mortal
Aquaman's
Engines.
like 2 hours 15, and I imagine Mortal Engines is
No,
long.
Mortal Engines was like 3.5 hours. It was fucking horrendous.
I remember you told me.
And
You told me about that because I was back at Dad's house and you were still in Superior, and you're like,
Aquaman gave me
I
a
went to all
seizure.
3 of these movies in one day. And I was like, yeah, I'll see Bumblebee.
Aquaman gave me a seizure.
I think I went with
I don't
Isaiah.
remember anything about Mortal Engines except
Either
that
one
it was
was-
really boring. And as for Bumblebee, I supremely overrated it compared to the other 2. But I still think that movie's okay. It's fine enough.
Bumblebee's okay. It's just a cheap. It's a John Hughes knockoff with Transformers.
It's 16 candles with a giant robot, yeah. And John Cena.
What more could you want? Anyways, that was Oldboy. But we have a big week of Drunkviews ahead of us. Along with the special announcement only for this video that Aiden's Ruby Sapphire Emerald is almost done.
Yep.
Well, it's cooking.
coming.
It's
It's coming.
cooking. The games are
Let
done.
me cook.
I have another podcast coming out on Tuesday.
Strays will be
I got
our
another
next
podcast.
drunk view, and then
Well, I was getting to that. I was gonna say, but don't feel like just
I'm
because
sorry.
we're dropping podcasts in Ruby Sapphire Emerald doesn't mean we're not focusing on the channel's premier show that nobody likes, Drunkview. Because we got Blue Beetle and Strays coming out. Strays tomorrow.
Mexican Spider-Man Homecoming.
Strays tomorrow, and if God wills it, the next day, we're gonna have Blue Beetle out. If God wills it. Because I'm just assuming these will each come out a day after we watch and review them.
That's how it typically goes.
So, yep. What do you, Old Boy for life.